Jimenez has turned his season around, and it's come at a time when the Orioles need him most. Ubaldo has stepped it up in the heat of the pennant race, and he has put together 4 consecutive outstanding starts as the Orioles continue the fight for a postseason berth. And tonight, Buck Showalter hands him the baseball as the O's look to get even in the series. It's the Orioles on Masson from Camden Yards in downtown Baltimore. The Orioles welcome in the Tampa Bay Rays. Tonight it's Game 2 in this 4-game weekend series. And hi, everyone. I'm Jim Hunter. Is there momentum in baseball? Perhaps. Is it sustainable? Well, that's the difficult part. It looked like the Orioles had a lot of momentum coming off a 6-3 road trip, including a finale 1-0 shutout at Fenway Park. And then last night, Tampa Bay came to town, scored 7 runs in the first 4 innings, and the Rays grabbed the opener of the 4-game series. But if you're going to turn things around, it all begins with the starter. And the Orioles send Ubaldo Jimenez to the mound tonight, and they like their chances, especially lately, with Ubaldo on the mound. Now, over his last 4 starts, he has been dominating. He's gone 2-1, but look at the ERA, 2.83, run support, 6.59. You're going to live with that, certainly. But the opposing batting average on balls put in play, 163. Compare it to the prior 5 starts before rejoining the rotation, and the numbers are glaringly different. Ubaldo has figured it out, or so it seems. Now the question is, can he carry it over? So, Jim Palmer, you were a pitcher. Were you the guy in charge of momentum? And can Ubaldo take that to the mound tonight?
Well, we have to go back to 1997 when Jim Leland was managing the Marlins. He said, momentum is as good as your next day's starting pitcher. So we're going to have to wait and see. Gallardo wasn't what he wanted to do. Gausman was as good as he's ever been up at Boston. You know, you read the Boston Globe today. Nick Cafardo, who's done writing for them for years, says, you know, yeah, Ramirez hits the walk-off home run last night, but it's still about pitching. It's going to be about pitching tonight. It's going to be about pitching down the stretch. And again, the Orioles had better pitching. They wouldn't be in this position where they have to win pretty much all the games the rest of the year.
Well, it's kind of amazing the way the year has gone for Ubaldo, who was removed from the rotation twice. And you could argue right now it's either he or Gausman that is pitching the best baseball on the team.
Well, he is, you know, and you know, the thing is, you know, you've got to have opportunity. And because of the Tillman injury, he pitches out in Oakland, wins the ball game. For some reason, has a problem. Doesn't really know how he hurt his shoulder. He gets backed off. You know, Miley comes over from Seattle, doesn't pitch as well as he would like. So all of a sudden, you get an opportunity. And, you know, you got to give him a lot of credit. It's going to be his first start as an American citizen. So we certainly congratulate him on that. But the other thing is, he did the work. You know, it's easy. You make a lot of money. You go pout in the bullpen. That's not Ubaldo Jimenez. So he's given him a chance to win. To me, he's thrown strike one a lot more. 70% of his fastballs over the last 4 starts. The only game he lost was Scherzer pitched that marvelous game over in Washington. So using his breaking ball, and it all starts again with getting ahead of the hitters. And as we know, Tampa Bay swinging the bat pretty well.
So the Orioles looking to bounce back tonight, get even in the series after losing it last night by a single run. How about the defense last night on both sides? Kevin Kiermaier may have been the difference in the game. He ran down a couple in the gaps. It's the O's and Rays. Lineups and first pitch are next. Orioles baseball on Masson is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. Well, fans settling in for Friday night baseball as the Orioles take on the Rays. Our BGE home game time temperature is a very pleasant 75 degrees. That humidity, though, still hanging in at 51%. BGE Home is Baltimore's home team for heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Why would you call anyone else? So game 2 of this 4-game series. Here's the Rays lineup. Forsythe, Kiermaier, and Longoria, with Brad Miller in left field tonight batting cleanup. Then Dickerson and Souza Jr. Pretty good numbers on the Rays' current road trip. Tonight is game 9 of their 11-game trip. Schaefer will be at first, then Alexi Ramirez, the new Ray, and Bobby Wilson.
So Ubaldo comes on, and again, one of his last 2 victories down in Tampa Bay, complete game. So again, a lot of fastballs. The strike percentage has gone up, so it makes it a little bit easier once you get ahead to use your other pitches, splitter, slider, and the splitter is his big strikeout pitch. So again, inflated numbers. You can see again, the walks up where you don't want them to be, pretty much almost 5 per 9 innings. So again, try to get ahead, and again, this club is swinging the bat pretty well when we talk about the Rays.
And there it is, the best pitch in baseball, strike 1, and we're underway.
Well, the interesting thing when you look at his last 4 starts, Jim, and he's pitched well ever since the had a chance to pitch against Scherzer and the Nats over in Washington, is the velocity hasn't been outstanding. I mean, it's been right around 89, 90. But again, strike percentage, he made a little bit of some adjustments, with Ramon Martinez, who helps Dave Wallace and Dom Chidi, and all of a sudden much more confidence. And there's a splitter, which is what he tries to do when he gets ahead in the count.
All right, now here's the question, and you're certainly probably overqualified to answer this, being in the Hall of Fame, but he told us the other day in Boston on the pregame show, and a bounce to Manny, he's likely going to number 13 and 1 man down, that the difference is he made one minor mechanical adjustment, and all of a sudden the fastball command returned. Now, how can it be that simple to completely turn a season around?
Well, it's not simple, because if it was simple, obviously, he would have done it a lot earlier. So I think you just have to listen. He wants to do well. There's never ever, I don't think that's ever been in doubt. Again, his first year he didn't pitch well, but it didn't get him a lot of runs, so it was a combination. Last year he comes back, has a good year. This year started out well, Jim, but you just get in, I don't know if it's the expectations. I mean, 4 years, $50 million, that's a lot of money. So you think, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but he paid attention. I just think he gets his hand, watch his right hand get out of his glove a little bit earlier. So he's able to kind of get it. He's always been one of those hookers where you kind of hook your arm behind you, and sometimes it's harder to sync that up. And he is 6'5", he is a big guy. He doesn't have one of those conventional windup. There's a lot of stuff going on. So you just try to simplify it as much as you can, and it's not always easy to do that. And the other thing is, I mean, they now get to see him in the last 10-12 days for the second time.
Well, gets it in there on 3-0. Kiermaier's hot. He is hitting 3 straight and is 10 for his last 28. And you don't want him on base with Ubaldo on the mound. There's a high chopper off the glove and into right field for a base hit. And Kiermaier is flying towards second base, and he is going to be in with a bad bounce double. So there's unlucky there for Ubaldo. Very fortuitous for Kiermaier.
Yeah, you don't really see this type of ball. I mean, this is going to have a Baltimore chop, and you can see it's not. I mean, he's not playing way in because he doesn't bunt a lot. But again, you have to play maybe a step closer because of the speed of Kevin Kiermaier. And then again, this is just good base running. I mean, 17 for his last 17 and stolen bases. He is a very good base runner.
Well, here's Longoria, who last night with one swing gave Tampa Bay a quick 3-0 first inning lead.
Yeah, it's just kind of amazing the dynamic of what speed does to a lineup. Not only that, I mean, they moved him right in front of Longoria. Well, that's a nice place to hit, the kind of year that Evans had it. Saw that last night, 5 RBIs. You saw the 3-run home run, the 2-run single, 3-runner off with Gallardo, who's in the middle of your picture, and then the 2-run single off of Tommy Hunter.
Bouncer in the dirt, 1-1 on Longoria. Kiermaier, good secondary lead, and Wieters looks him back. Well, Longoria now has 18 career home runs at Camden Yards. 55 RBIs in 69 games. That's a real good ratio. 5 RBIs last night. This one's driven to left center field pretty deep. Jones is back, and that ball is gone. A second consecutive game. Longoria has hit a first inning home run.
Well, they've hit home runs now in their last 12 games. And that ball went right off the top of the Oriole dugout. That's their bullpen dugout. And it gives you an idea. Last night it was this kind of a cutter after walking the first 2 guys. Gallardo throws it in the middle of the plate. And then right here, unlucky on the infield hit off of the glove of Davis, and then a ball in the middle of the plate, and the ball's blasted. Take a look right here. You're trying to go in, and again, 90. This is one of the better fastball hitters in the American League. Great pitch to hit and doesn't miss it.
So this is eerily starting as his start at Tampa started. There's a sweeping breaking ball bounce to first. Davis gets it to Ubaldo, and 2 men down.
Take a look at the Oriole defense. Kim is back from wherever he was to play left. Jones and Bourne. That's the outfield. Machado, Hardy, Scope, and Davis, and then Matt Wieters. Second straight game here at home behind the plate.
So 2 down, and here's Corey Dickerson.
Well, I don't know if this is a good omen, but if you go back to the game where Ubaldo pitches the complete game, he gave up a 3-run home run to Logan Morrison in the first inning. So when the Orioles came to bat in the second, now it'll be the bottom of the first, he was trailing 3-0. So there's your silver lining, if there is one.
And ball 1 inside to Dickerson. Ubaldo in that game September 5th allowed a total of just 2 hits, including the home run Jim just talked about it off the bat of Morrison. He also only walked 1, and that's a big key for Ubaldo.
Well, yeah, the good thing is when you're on a roll, the games do, even though they're all different, they seem a little bit alike because you're really not thinking about mechanics. You're just going out there. What do I need to do? What pitch do I need to execute? But when you struggle, everything changes. And there's a really good movement. Usually we see the 2-seamer that runs away from the lefty, but that ball, I don't know if it over rotated, but that ball cut in on his fist. And again, Dickerson, as we mentioned, if you were with us last night, he's got a 9-game hitting streak, but he's been red hot. It's not only hits, it's home runs.
Looked like a good splitter there, and 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when you're throwing 90, this is what you have to do. You know, it's his second best pitch. It's his biggest swing and miss pitch. So you want to establish it as early as you can. And right there, I think if you throw it 2-1 when you're behind in the count, he'll throw it in any count.
Strike 3 call. Fastball on the inside corner, and that will end the inning. With Evan Longoria's career high 34th home run as the Rays on top. Bottom of the first, here come the O's. tomorrow, so the kids can come. 2-0 Tampa Bay. Here's a look at the Orioles Southwest Airlines starting lineup. Southwest, transparency, low fares, and nothing to hide. Jones, Kim, and Machado with Davis at first base batting cleanup. Then Jonathan Scope, Pedro Alvarez will DH. Matt Wieters catching. Pretty good numbers against the Rays this year. Then Hardy and Bourne. Mark Trumbo not starting tonight. He reported to work today with some back spasms.
And Chris Archer, 8 and 18. Again, fastballs, sliders. That's the breakup for the year. Lately, it's been more sliders than fastballs. And again, occasional changeup, 94, 95. That's probably the average fastball. ERA, very good at home, not so good on the road. And again, power pitcher, leading the American League in strikeouts, at least for the moment.
Adam Jones just 1 out of his last 15 without an RBI. Pops it up. Longoria at third, waits. And on 2 pitches, 1 down here in the first.
So take a look at this Rays defense, and again, you got Wilson, who can really catch behind the plate. Go to the outfield, Miller, Kiermaier, and Steven Susan Jr., Longoria, Gold Glove winner. Ramirez picked them up from San Diego. Forsythe, and then Schaefer over Richie Schaefer with Logan Morrison going to have wrist surgery on the disabled list.
Hyun-Soo Kim getting a start. This is only his 5th start in the month of September. With Michael Bourne here, gives Buck Showalter another option. And Bourne certainly a more experienced player, in particular in a pennant race. But both Bourne and Kim are in there tonight, with Mark Trumbo unable to start. 1-1 the count on Kim. There's Mark on the bench with his hoodie, trying to keep that back warm. Buck Showalter said before the game that not a major issue, and Trumbo may in fact be available sometime tonight. It's popped up to shallow left. Ramirez is out. Miller is in. And it's off the glove. And Kim, a big turnaround first, but probably should have been at second base. But nonetheless, the Orioles get a gift base runner.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have made it. I don't even know if he would have attempted when you had Manny behind him, but to run a little harder, certainly an option. You know, again, I mean, Miller, they moved him to first. Logan gets hurt. And again, he hasn't played a lot of outfield this year, even though he did it last year in Seattle. Certainly a catchable ball. Orioles get a break. Let's see if they can cash in. I think you got yourself, if you're Chris Archer, got 2 routine outs. All of a sudden, you got Manny Machado coming to the plate with 35 home runs.
And Alexei Ramirez, the shortstop, was there, and he deferred when he was called off.
Well, as he should have, yeah.
Our Bank of America alert. Yeah, if I'm Chris Archer, I'm very alert of that.
Yeah.
And Brad Miller's 18th error of the year.
Well, he's going to play first base next year, and because of injuries, they put him there just trying to get his bat in. I mean, he's got, what, 28 home runs already, having a monster year with his bat. So if you're Kevin Cash, you're going to find a place in the lineup for him.
Manny has a 6-game hitting streak working, 320 in that stretch. Strike on the inside corner, perfect pitch. And Manny back in April, right here at Camden Yards, he took Chris Archer deep. Chris Archer's allowed 26 home runs on the year.
Yeah, the Orioles, what, they had 4 that night.
And they won that game.
What, they're 1-2 against
1-2 against Archer.
Yeah.
Or he's 1-2 against them.
Yeah. But I mean, he's got fabulous stuff. You know, again, if you want to start splitting up the numbers, you know, he pitches well at home. They don't score any runs for him. I mean, he's 3-9 at home with a 2.63 ERA. They get him a little over 2 runs a game. Score him almost over 6 runs a game on the road. Yet he gives up 5.5. So
overthrows that fastball, 3-2.
Well, you're always looking for extra outs against good pitchers, and you know, the Orioles are, you know, they know about Chris Archer. They're not looking at 8 and 18. You know, the year, I mean, he's pitched well the last 3 months. You know, the first 3 were not very good. They know very capable guy on the mound.
Tapper out in front of the plate. To second, high, and safe is the call. Eric Cooper said the foot came off. So 2 defensive mistakes, and the Orioles are in business here. First and second with 1 out.
Yeah, I was talking to Kevin Cash. He said, "Well, I really like Bobby Wilson." And, you know, we know him. He was with the Rangers early, the Angels earlier on, and he just drops his elbow and the ball tails a little bit. I mean, he made the right play. Obviously, you want to get the lead runner, and they're going to look in there. But he looked like, at least from this angle, that the throw tailed enough, and you're trying to catch it and keep your foot on the bag. Couldn't do it. So right there, foot up, you catch it, keep it from going into center field, and there's back-to-back breaks.
Same with Forsythe, trying to get that toe back on and made the call easier for Cooper. If he just came off like he had it on there all the way, he may have gotten the call.
Yeah, he's already, as Kim comes in, has left the bag.
Nice job by Eric Cooper there. And here's Davis. So that'll go as a fielder's choice to Machado. And Kim is safe on an E2, so 2 errors already in this game. Well, this is where you see the shift. Shortstop is vacated. The Orioles last night 3 for 15 with runners in scoring position in a 7-6 loss.
I mean, even the changeup is at 87. So, I mean, if you're hitting off Chris Archer, and this is why, I mean, you know, obviously when you're leading the league in strikeouts, you got good stuff. But everything's pretty much between 87 and 94. So if he pitches up in the zone against the Orioles in this ballpark.
Forsythe goes to Ramirez and back to first, and there's a double play, and that ends the inning. So the Orioles 3 for 15 runners in scoring position last night begin tonight 0 for 1. Archer gets a big double play. We'll head to the second. Rays have a 2-0 lead. Tonight's game brought to you by Miller Lite. Ubaldo back to work. 2-run home run by Longoria in the first. He allowed a 3-run home run September 5th in his start against Tampa Bay, and then nothing else. And the Orioles came back and got him the win, and he pitched the complete game. First one and only one for the O's this year.
Yeah, well, that is the immediate goal once you give up a 2-run shot, as he did to Evan Longoria in the first.
Hard hit ball, base hit left field, looked like a hanging breaking ball. So Sousa's on with a leadoff single. And Tampa Bay, the worst hitting team in the league, just continues to pound the O's. Well, tomorrow get ready for a new promotional giveaway that you don't want to miss. First 25,000 fans 15 and over as the O's host the Rays receive the vintage Oriole Bobble Boy or Bobble Girl. And you can add this to your Birdland collection. There they are on display. Enjoy a great night of baseball and pick out one of the bobbleheads. Bobble Boy or Bobble Girl. Orioles.com or 888-848-BIRD. And that ball is crushed to left field off the bat of Schaefer. And just like that, it's 4-0.
Well, it's so interesting. Talking to Kevin Cash, second-year manager, he goes, everybody thinks we're playing the role of spoiler. I want to see our young players. You just saw one of them right there. Last year's minor league player of the year. Didn't have a great year down at AAA Durham. Hit 11 home runs, and right there hits his 12th. Well, again, take a look. Right down the middle. And again, big, tall, rangy. 26 home runs in the minor leagues last year.
416 feet. So back-to-back two-run home runs, and the home run really hasn't hurt Ubaldo prior to tonight. And you look at his season, Jim, he came into this game having allowed just 4 home runs to right-handed batters all year. And now he's allowed 2 home runs to right-handed batters in the first 2 innings. This is lifted to right, Bourne back on it. And he's got it for the first out here as Alexei Ramirez has retired 1 down in the second. Here's our Maryland Live Casino inside the numbers, and here is Ubaldo early and since.
Yeah, that's the home record for the Orioles. So they're very good early on, and then since, again, they've actually played better on the road, something that's a little bit unusual. Needed to have a big road trip, did go 6-3. But reality is, second half of the year, Tampa has won more games than the Orioles, 29-28. They're a much better club because their pitching has gotten healthy. And I just, you kind of wonder, I think for a young player, there's right in the middle, new hitting instructor on the right, Chad Mottola, Kevin Cash in the middle. Think of the energy level when you get called to the big leagues in September, and you get to play in a pennant race, maybe not vying to win the pennant, but to make a difference. They did it against Toronto in the month of September. Jim Hickey, the pitching coach, we saw him multiple times last night, beat them 4 out of 6. And you think the Jays wanted that to happen? Probably easier sometimes to generate some energy when you're the underdog, because nobody expects you to win, and they've been beating some good teams.
Strike 3 called. Second strikeout for Ubaldo, and 2 men down.
Yeah, Bobby Wilson again started with Texas, picked up on waivers right down the middle.
So back to the top of the lineup. It turns over already. Forsythe bounced out to third to lead off the game.
Well, you got a leadoff hitter. I mean, Forsythe's probably not your prototypical guy because doesn't steal a lot of bases, 6 out of 12. But he's got multi-hits games in 8 out of his last 16, and there's another one. Always a tough call if you're a manager. Buck Showalter, any manager, when you expand the rosters. When do you go to the bullpen? Is the guy that you called up who wasn't here in the first 5 months, or up and down in a lot of cases? When do you actually go to the bullpen? And Ubaldo's trying to figure out, how am I going to make my guys think I have a chance to win tonight?
Well, there's the answer. Tyler Wilson gets up here in the second inning. Bounce right to Davis, and that'll end the inning. So Ubaldo gets out of it, no further damage, but another 2-run home run mid-second, 4-0 Rays. has won $500 for being selected and will win $500 more for every Orioles home run hit tonight. You could grab a home run scratch off before they're going, gone. You could end up winning $50,000. Visit mdlottery.com/baseball. A tough start for Ubaldo. A couple of 2-run home runs and a quick 4-0 deficit. Tampa Bay got off to a 7-4 lead last night after 4 innings, even after the Orioles came back and got the lead in the bottom of the first after Longoria's 3-run home run in the top. Tough to always have to come back, especially by multiple runs.
Well, especially against Archer if he's on his game. I mean, you don't know that.
1-1 on Scope. Alvarez on deck, then Wieters. Archer has lost more games than any pitcher in the major leagues. He is 8-18. He began the year going 4-12 into the All-Star break. Scope chases a pitch down and away, and it's 1-2.
Well, he threw about 40% sliders last year, struck out over 250. Seventh guy in Major League history to do that and have a losing record. And they don't score a lot of runs for him, as they haven't this year. But the last 3 months, Jim, 3.38, 3.03, 3.38. That's his ERA.
Shallow right, and on the ball is Souza. One down in the Orioles second.
And of course, you know what his mission is. Try to do what you always try to do when they get you a bunch of runs. Have a shutdown inning.
Archer has also allowed 26 total home runs, which is kind of amazing. When you look at his hits per inning, he's below a hit per inning.
Well, what, 15 of those on the road? Great place to pitch in Tampa. And of course, his ERA indicates that. You know, maybe more comfortable. What, 2.63 ERA at home? And again, he gets on the road. I mean, everything changes. 5.63. That's a lot of runs. Yeah, sometimes you feel like he could just pitch with a two-seam fastball. And he's got great movement. You know, the slider again, as we mentioned, you know, that's his big strikeout pitch. But if he hangs it, it can go a long way.
Good take. Pedro happy to be back in the starting lineup. First start since Sunday in Detroit. Good idea going the other way. Well, back on July 15th, Archer facing the Orioles at the Trop, and Pedro got him to the deepest part of center field.
Yeah, all you gotta do is look at his face, and he knew it was going out of there.
That ball's crushed. Back it goes, and the O's are on the board. Pedro Alvarez is 21st, and it's a 4-1 game. And that'll get the crowd back into it.
Well, Jim, I'll tell you what. I mean, he just broke the cardinal rule of pitching. To throw a guy a 95-mile-per-hour fastball, he hits it over the visiting dugout, and you come back with a hanging slider. And Pedro Alvarez says, "Thank you so much." For an accomplished pitcher, leading the American League in strikeouts, that was not a particularly good pitch. Unless, of course, you're an Oriole fan and you want a home run. It just speeds up the bat, gives him a chance, and as long as he's going to do that, doesn't matter what the scoreboard is. I mean, look at this slider. It just, you know, you're late. And he makes it, I mean, good swing, stays back, and he's got tremendous strength. And he just smokes it into the seats.
Popped up shallow center. Kiermaier was deep. And with that speed, he gets there and waits. The Wieters is retired and 2 men down.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and you always kind of talk to your catcher or you talk to other pitchers when you're sitting on the bench. You know, what happened when I got behind him, or was he late on the fastball? Where is the bat head? Is he out in front? Is he catching up? And Alvarez doesn't catch up, and he gives him the pitch he can. And the Orioles get on the board.
Hardy takes the first pitch. News alert. JJ's really swinging the bat well. 2-0. He's hitting 3 straight games, 4 for 8, and 6 RBIs in those 3 games. And over a longer stretch, in his last 16 games, he has 11 RBIs, and there's another base hit. So he gets ahead 2-0, and he gets a pitch to pull.
Yeah, Chris Archer doing everything that Jim Hickey, his pitching coach, doesn't want him to do to let the Orioles back in the game. Speeds up the bat with a slider to Alvarez, gets behind Hardy. He does it, as you mentioned, he's hitting and swinging well. Very comfortable at the plate, so he can look fastball, gets a fastball. And now all of a sudden, you know, you open up a hole. Schaefer's got a hold Hardy at first. Got a left-handed hitter up. He could hit a little dribbler in the right, and all of a sudden you're in business.
Michael Bourne, the number 9 batter, playing in his 12th game as an Oriole. And he'll look at a strike.
And they take the bunt away. I mean, he will bunt. And Longoria up on the grass. He went back maybe a step at third. And of course, that's what he does to make sure there's no ball put in front of him.
He looks over another one, 0-2. Well, the Orioles as a team, the bunt is really not part of their attack. They have just 7 bunt singles all year. That is tied for 27th in the major leagues with Detroit and the Mets. The only team that has fewer bunt hits, and this is not a surprise, the Boston Red Sox. They have just 3. They just sit back and mash.
Well, they hit doubles and home runs.
So the Orioles, either it's a style or players are not comfortable, whatever, but it's just really not a part of their game. It's more of an element of surprise when it does come. But I agree with you. I think Bourne, that could be a big part of his game as an Oriole. He has speed. And a weak swing, and he got him. Fooled by the pitch. So Bourne goes down on strikes, and that ends the inning. Orioles do get one back. Pedro Alvarez, and no doubt a battered shot. 21st on the year as the O's on the board. We head to the 3rd in a 4-1 game. Is brought to you by T-Mobile. And how about the game last night at Fenway Park? 3-run home run capped a 5-run bottom of the 9th. Hanley Ramirez hit it out, 4th player in Sox history, did a walk-off home run against the Yankees, then turned a deficit into a win. And anytime you're on a list with the Hall of Famer Joe Cronin, that's a pretty good night. And how about what it did for the night? The Orioles had lost. They would have remained 1 back. Boston was down 5-2 going to that inning. And instead, the Orioles lost the game. The Yankees would have been 3 games out. Instead, they're 5 out. So that was a big turnaround. And Betances did not start the inning. They were trying to avoid using him and ended up costing the Yankees. Popped up off the bat of Longoria to Bourne, and he's got it for the out and 1 down.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was the 3rd pitcher of the inning and 3rd straight day. Joe Girardi. Of course, you know, he already traded Andrew Miller, already traded Aroldis Chapman for young players, try to get better in the future, and it caught up with them last night. Yeah, and the other thing is, if you went back to the Oriole game, up in Boston, did Ramirez take, and maybe this is a reflection on how good Zack Britton is, the 3 of the worst swings you've ever seen to strike out to end the game. Next night he comes back with a 3-run home run. 99.6 mile per hour fastball, dead center.
Oh, 2 on Brad Miller.
Well, again, shutout inning. That's where it starts. Don't give them anything. Get your guys back up. You'll be back already here in the third, second time through the Orioles order. So keep it at 4-1.
Strike 3 called. Changeup it looked like on the outside corner, maybe a splitter.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a cutter, slider, or whatever, but it's a backdoor or something. Yeah, maybe slider. Just a little cutter, slider, and Miller thinks, okay, it's not coming over, but it's certainly well in the strike zone.
Well, you know you have good stuff when you have 3 strikeouts, and all 3 have been called strikeouts. Now here's Corey Dickerson, who was called out on strikes to end the first. Ubaldo looking for his first clean inning.
Yeah, Dickerson didn't kind of agree with Adrian Johnson's call. And
now that was interesting. I'm assuming that was a fastball. It was 89, but he took a little bit off. Instead of.
Well, that's pretty much where he's been lately. But it's been working because of the movement factor. No, Ubaldo doesn't, and really, maybe 92, the most we've seen him in this third year. You know, usually in that range. This year, maybe 90, 91. It's not the guy that made the All-Star team, won 19 games, throwing 98 for the Rockies.
Popped them up. Who's it going to be? Ubaldo's going to take charge, and Ubaldo runs it down at foul ground. Nicely done, number 31. 3 up, 3 down inning in a 4-1 game. Senior league in losses and in strikeouts. So Chris Archer's on that list coming into tonight's game. He was leading the major leagues, in fact, in losses, and the American League in strikeouts by 1. But Sam Jones, the first to do it with the Cubs back in 1955. Nolan Ryan, who's in the Hall of Fame, then of the California Angels in 1976. The knuckleballer, another Hall of Famer, Phil Niekro in 1977, and Andy Benes of the Padres in 94. So it's a difficult thing. You have to have that strikeout pitch and the strikeout command, but you don't always control the wins and losses.
Well, you have to go, back to 2003, Mike Maroth on that Tiger team. Nick Alan Trammell was the manager. They thought they were going to maybe break the all-time loss record. He went 9-21. He's the last 20-game loser. But I was listening to one of the broadcasts, and John Flaherty had gone in to talk to Kevin Cash, and he goes, we're not going to not let him pitch so he doesn't, lose 20. In the old days, that was kind of something you might think about doing. Mainly because you had a lot of innings and whatever, but nowadays, really wins and losses don't mean a whole lot. I mean, they do, but they don't, if you know what I'm saying. When you go to contract table, how many innings, how many strikeouts.
Well, and of all the pitchers in their rotation, I would think he would be the least that would be sat down because he's regarded as their ace. So you give the ace ace kind of treatment.
He hasn't pitched like the ace. But certainly a very talented young gun. You're right.
Adam Jones, a base hit to left center field. Kiermaier over to try to cut it off, and he does. And Adam has to put on the brakes. Wow, does he cover ground?
Well, he does, and of course you play so deep, and he's over in right center, so the ball's not hit hard. Little slider. Adam has a nice swing on it, hits it off the end of the bat. I mean, look where he has to come. He's going to come over here. So by doing that, again, he's got to catch it on the run, tries to circle it. And you're down by 3. You're not getting yourself thrown out at second base.
So for the first time in 3 innings, the O's get the leadoff man on. And here's Hyun-Soo Kim. Reached on an error on a pop-up. Shallow left, dropped by the left fielder Miller. Miller's 18th error of the year. Kim now 2 for 13 in the month of September.
Yeah, I think the league has found out, and of course Archer can't really maybe thwart this, is that he's a pretty good fastball hitter. For a guy that started out, in spring training, 0 for 23, they thought he was going to have trouble with the fastball. He's done a nice job. It's the other stuff that's giving him trouble. There's a slider it's a big strike zone tonight, and you could very rarely do you see Kim, but I mean, it's, again, it's probably a good night to pitch with Adrian Johnson behind that, even though the scoreboard wouldn't tell you. Ball's almost always a ball. Again, Bobby Wilson, he's his manager's favorite catcher because he brings it right into the strike zone.
A little bit low, so the count will even 2-2.
Yeah, such a big difference between being 2-1 or 1-2, especially when you're trying to get back into the game.
A leadoff single for Jones. With the third, Longoria, Ramirez Juan back to first, a double play. That's the second double play already turned in this game by Tampa Bay.
Yeah, you think you have something going. 1 pitch, 2 outs. Pitcher's best friend. And again, last night, we saw Reimold do this with a runner at third. They turned the double play. Orioles trying to get back in that game, trailing 7-4.
Could short circuit what was a promising start to the inning. And that'll bring up Manny. Manny had a little dribbler out in front of the plate. And Wilson trying to force Kim at second, threw high, and Kim reached. Manny reached first on the fielder's choice error. Chris Archer's 27 years old. He's out of Clayton, North Carolina. Already in his 3rd organization as a pro. He was traded to the Cubs following the 2008 season when he pitched an A ball in the South Atlantic League in the Indian system that year. And then after the 2010 season, he was traded to the Rays as one of the key pieces for Matt Garza. That year he had spent in A ball and Double-A with the Cubs. So twice organizational scouts thought he had potential, and the Rays are the team realizing it as they made sure he was in that deal for Garza.
Yeah, I don't think you ever doubted the fact that he had a great arm. I mean, 84 walks in 115 innings. Next year, 66 in 109, 80 in 134. So it was really a matter of just him working on his windup. If you talk to him, he's so deliberate because he had to change his windup. Had to figure out a way. We've seen it with Tillman. We've seen it a lot. He's not that it's quite as big as Chris Tillman. But how can I control my windup to be able to repeat it?
And Manny down on strikes, so that ends the inning. So leadoff single, but none left. We'll head to the fourth at Camden Yards, 4-1 Tampa Bay. Inning of Orioles baseball is brought to you by the RAV4 Hybrid. All-wheel drive and unexpected performance. Visit buyatoyota.com. A little hint of autumn in the air tonight. And the Friday night crowd at Camden Yards. Rays with a pair of two-run home runs, one in the first by Longoria, one in the second by Schaefer. Ubaldo 3 up, 3 down, 8-pitch third inning. Here's Souza, who singled on a hanger to get on ahead of the home run by Schaefer.
Just like he did last night. Another guy, what, he's 11 now, got on base 11 out of his last 17 plate appearances. Hanging curveball to left last night, same thing tonight. Ubaldo didn't want to throw it there. Another one of their young players. It's going to get every opportunity to fail. That's all you can ask.
Rays are trying to get the market on players from the state of Washington. Souza is from Everett, Washington, and last night's starter, Blake Snell, from the state of Washington as well. He's from Shoreline. Here's Snell on the bench after no decision.
That's what you got to do. You always want to, the night after you pitch, stand next to the hitting instructor.
And he got him. Looked like the splitter.
Yeah, he laid off the first two and then just couldn't keep him from swinging at the next one. Take a look at our Mercedes pitch track. And there it is, the splitter. The biggest swing and a miss. And that is presented by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. And that's what Souza gets.
Ubaldo's best resulted in nothing.
Well, it looked like he recognized it till he swung at the third one.
Schaefer guessing he was going to get the same pitch, and he didn't.
Well, he'll probably get a fastball. It just won't be in the same count inside middle. And
0-2.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times when you would in spring training, once you'd made the club and established yourself, you'd pitch against the AAA teams, and you'd face young guys like Richie Schaefer, and you throw them a fastball and they'd belt it, and then the next time you'd mess around with them, sliders and curveballs and change-ups and all that kind of stuff.
Deep in the hole to Hardy. Long throw, got him.
What a play. He makes it look so easy. You know, it's kind of a glide. It's the perfect mechanics. When I catch it, I'm going to be right in the position where I can stop, and then the perfect throw. A nice little target over there, Chris Davis.
JJ sure does plant that foot very quickly and allows him to stay in balance.
Well, I think that's, you know, everybody talks about how if you're going to be a good infielder, Mike Bordick could talk volumes about it because one of the great ones, you better have quick feet.
Reeders comes back and right over the fence.
Trying to atone for the pop-up in Fenway.
Well, with that wind.
Oh no, no. We were talking. I mean, there's no ballpark where the wind affects pop flies more than Fenway Park because of the low roof.
And that pop-up was so high it went above the broadcast level before it started going down.
No, I told him, I said, where are your friends? You know, the rest of the infielders. Come on.
Goes right at him.
Yeah, Ramirez, they get him from San Diego. The Orioles, of course, have seen him for years with the White Sox. And then up in Toronto, they win 2 out of 3. Hits a 3-run home run off of Marcus Stroman.
His 5th game as a Ray. And the 2-2. Oh, just got a piece. Let's say a longtime Chicago White Sox shortstop, then went to San Diego as a free agent. Look at that. He just ticked the bat. Wow, it came sidearm.
Yeah, every once in a while when he gets on a roll, he'll just drop down a little bit. I mean, right over the top, and you know, it's really 3/4, but he's so over the top. I mean, and then not only that, he makes a perfect pitch. But once again, Ramirez able to flick it foul.
Think Dave Wallace taught him that?
No.
And Pound still reliable. And back-to-back 3-up, 3-down innings for Ubaldo. He's retired 7 straight, mid-4th, 4-1 game. Orioles baseball on Masson is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by M&T Bank, understanding what's important. Really a nice night downtown. Fans in t-shirts and jerseys and feather hats. Of course, we are the Birds.
Yeah, we got an erroneous weather report. I think it was supposed to be frost tonight or something like that.
Frost?
No.
Cool.
Supposed to be cool.
Autumnal. Chris Davis, shift is on. And it's low 1-0.
Yeah, they give him a 4-0 lead, but I mean, you go back, the Orioles getting a chance after the Rays put 2 on in the top of the first. And he gets the slider to hit Chris to hit into double play.
1-1 the count. Chris bounced into that double play to end the first inning. Rays have turned 2 already in this game. First one ended an inning, and the second one short-circuited a potential rally. See what Fordyce is way out there. Forsythe. Here's one of those 4 home runs off Archer April 8th.
Well, again, fastball in the middle of the plate, and Orioles are going to hope that as the game progresses, they'll get that. Yeah, you know, you look at what he does. I mean, even 242 the first time. Most guys have trouble sometimes, maybe second, third time through the order. For him, the numbers go down. That's why the 8 and 18 is, especially over the last 3 months, is not a real number. Yeah, when you're struggling, you know, there's a 3-1 changeup. You're not seeing the ball. You're moving and whatever, and you can see the frustration. You know, he worked hard. He was out hitting early.
Yeah, he's 2 for his last 25. That ball's got some carry to left field. Opposite field he goes. And a home run for Davis. And it's a 4-2 game.
Well, let's just hope that Archer keeps it as he's down on one knee throwing the rosin bag. Keeps throwing those sliders up in the zone. Alvarez slider to right. High slider out over the plate, which is Chris Davis's strength. And you got yourself your second run.
38th of the year, and another $500 for our Maryland Lottery contestant of the game, Ernest Garrison of Northwood. So the Orioles, their 65th multi-home run game, as both Pedro and Chris have hit solos. So the Orioles have back half of the deficit.
Make a look, and again, I mean, look at the slider, just kind of spins, and again, out over the plate, you just have more time. Yeah, you don't have to hurry. That 95 is what, about 87? And there's the hard slider, the bad slider.
He'll scope down in the count 0-2. He flied out his first at bat to the right fielder Souza. Oriole Bird getting the fans into it. High chopper right to Longoria. And Scope retired for the first out here in the 4th. Well, the race for the top spot in the AL East will take center stage right here in Birdland. It all begins on Monday. The O's and Red Sox open up a 4-game series Monday through Thursday. Now, good seats for each game are available, so don't miss out. Coming out and paint the ballpark orange. A very important 4-game series that may decide the division title. Get your tickets now, Orioles.com, or call 888-848-BIRD. Pedro Alvarez homered his first at bat. Pedro is now just 4 for his last 17, but he's in the lineup because of his home run potential. And overall, he's having a real good year. Now 21 home runs. He's got 48 RBIs. Right at Forsythe, ball was smoked right at the second baseman, 2 down. Time now for our PNC minor league report. PNC for the achiever in you, and congratulations to Chance Sisco, who spent most of the year at Bowie, but then at the age of 21 found himself in AAA to end the year. The Brooks Robinson minor league player of the year. 317 combined, 28 doubles, 6 home runs, and a lot of the power surfaced late, and a .403 on base percentage.
Yeah, and of course it's not easy to hit home runs at Norfolk.
He hit a home run in the Futures game at San Diego. And there's Brooksy, the award named after him. Leader's trying to go the other way, slices it foul.
There is a rumor, it's just a rumor, that number 5 may be here this weekend.
Well, tomorrow is the day they get the awards.
Well, then that's probably why he'll be appearing.
Now, are you going to be here since one of the awards is named after you?
Well, I'll be here, but
you'll be here with me?
I'll be here with you. I'm here. Okay. I'm here. I'm here till the Orioles aren't here.
And then you're
yeah, the one thing, I mean, again, if we just looked at Archer, who he buzzes the ball up under Matt Wieters' chin, is that he really does more comfortable pitching away. But, you know, the Orioles know, forced start. You know, I look at it, it's really good change up there. Again, with late movement. You talked about the 26 home runs. The inning, when you're trailing by 2 runs, that he gives up the most home runs in is the 6th. And here we are in the 4th, and this is a home run ballpark here.
Whoa!
And the other thing, he's a very animated young man, and you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. You don't like this if you're a hitter. Well, that is up there by the chin. So he's not a guy that strikes you out and just says, "Oh shucks." It's okay. The kind of guy you want to maybe do some damage against.
Overthrows that, count full.
Now, I know this is going to sound silly, but sometimes when you get an early lead, it's actually harder to pitch with because you don't want to give it up. Maybe you're a little too careful. You know, instead of figuring I got to make a perfect pitch, well, I got to throw a strike here, and in this park that doesn't work.
Wieters gets a piece. Matt about to see the 7th pitch in this at bat. He's really been swinging a nice bat. He's got 9 RBIs in his last 12 games. He's also been playing a lot. He's caught every game since Monday. Outside, ball 4. So from 1 and 2 to a walk to keep the inning going. Well, the Orioles leading the world in home runs, and they're also leading the major leagues. Most combined home runs by infielders, 109, updated with the home run by Chris Davis. The Rays have 106. Of course, with Longoria and Brad Miller, who spent most of the year in the infield. But the Orioles now with 234 as a team. And now with 65 multi-home run games.
Wow, is that a big outside corner? You know, the one thing about the Orioles, you know, when you get an umpire that's consistently what he is, which is, you know, an ample strike zone, they don't even look back, especially early in the count. A little different when you get 2 strikes. And Wilson's just going to go right out there.
Had him out in front. He popped it up. Ramirez at short, puts it away for the out, and the inning ends. But the Orioles get 1 back. Chris Davis, real good at bat. Number 38 makes it a 4-2 game. providing innovative, high-value dental and vision benefits to area employers and individuals. Smile, it's Friday. Very easy to get fans to smile at the ballpark. Nice crowd on hand on this Friday night, these all-important games, and posing at the ballpark. Say cheese. Little sweetie with her dad. Ubaldo's retired 7 in a row. Back-to-back 3 up, 3 down innings. Real good off-speed pitch. He had Bobby Wilson out in front.
Yeah, it just seemed 4 starts ago, again, the game against the Nationals, you know, he's always said, okay, I'm going to establish my fastball, but it seemed like the curveball. Used it a little bit more, used it very well. Strike percentage went up with all 3 of his pitches. More to look for.
Broken bat towards the middle. Hardy cuts it front. He had the better angle. It gets him by a step. What a play by Hardy.
Well, Bobby Wilson, I tell you what, I mean, the bat just implodes in his hand. He gets all over his fist, and again, big swing, but really pretty much hits it up the handle. And right there. Now he's got to come get it. You can see Scope coming in just in case. But JJ there, not a lot of speed, able to throw him out.
The last 3 balls have been hit to Hardy.
It's not a bad idea. 3 Gold Gloves. Yeah, I kind of like when I pitched. You know, I had Brooks with 16, Belanger with 8, Blair with 8. Maybe Johnson won 3 or 4, Grich won 7. Orioles and Angels. Which guy should I choose? Boog could pick it over first. Eddie Murray's with Cal. 3 Gold Gloves. Yeah, that's a nice choice to have.
This is a tremendous defensive infield. Orioles have moved up. They're back to 2nd in team fielding. And that one little bad stretch right after JJ went on the DL, but they have been chipping their way back up ever since. How about this? Another one to Hardy. It's 4 in a row, played perfectly, and 2 men down in the Tampa Bay 5th. Well, the push for the postseason is on, and now's your chance to earn postseason ticket priority by placing a deposit on any 2017 season plan. Visit Orioles.com/postseason and place a deposit on any full or partial season plan to guarantee your chance to purchase tickets to potential 2016 postseason games at Oriole Park. Deposits must be made by Monday, September 26th to guarantee that access. So go to Orioles.com/postseason for all the details.
Yeah, isn't it kind of amazing? You know, Kiermaier hits the ball in the 1st inning, and you're playing in as Chris Davis is down. It's just a high chopper, and because of his speed, I mean, you can see where he is and kind of set up the whole 1st inning. I mean, it's just pretty much routine. You make a good pitch, and next thing you know, he's at 2nd, and then you make a mistake to Longoria. He hits his career high 34th home run, and you're down 2-0. It's like a totally different guy. Who pitched the first 2 innings? And now all of a sudden Ubaldo back to where he was the last 4 starts.
That's a good stretch. And he gets him on a foul tip. So Ubaldo, 3 consecutive 3 up, 3 down innings. He has retired 10 consecutive batters. Strikeout ends the 5th, 4-2 game. Mile One Automotive, offering you 20 convenient locations throughout the Baltimore area. Visit us in-store or online at mile1.com. Well, the finale of this 4-game series, night game tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and then day game on Sunday, Masson 2 on Sunday. The finale against the Rays, final game between these teams this year. The Orioles are 11-5 against Tampa Bay, already assured of the season series. Michael Bourne bunts. Longoria out of the glove, and he got him. Little bit too hard.
Well, yeah, that and the fact it's anticipation. I mean, if you're Chris Archer, not that you have to tell your Gold Glove third baseman what to do. You have to do it with Brooks Robinson, but you're going to, hey, do not let him bunt it in front of you. So he's ready. And of course, it is too hard. Nice running throw. Again, Schaefer. Again, you like the attempt, just didn't deaden it enough. Again, anticipating it's a pretty easy play for him. If you're Chris Archer, you're going, it's the way we drew it up. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Yeah, he had a 20-pitch 4th inning. Went back to Adam Jones, top of the lineup. Adam singled his last at bat. Came into this game just 1 for his last 15 and 7 for his last 31. Archer now 40 and 50 in his big league career, all his major league appearances with the Rays.
So he's got them all, 3 of them. Yeah, I was talking to Scott Coolbaugh, the Oriole hitting instructor, and I said, so Adam may be overswinging a little bit. He said, listen, he said, what I tried to tell him was try to hit the ball as hard as you can, the easiest you can, and hit it as far as you can, the easiest as you can. He said, that's what J.J. Hardy told my son Tyler, talking about Scott. So again, the message was, and he said, when if you go back to the game up in Boston against Porcello, the first he hit a home run and the wind knocked it down. Then the next one he hit a bomb, didn't have anything, 0 for 2, and then started swinging hard again. So again, this is the time of year where, just to me, tension and focus and all those things come into play. But at the end of the day, if you try too hard, it's not going to work. I don't care if you're pitching, hitting, you name it.
Well, 2-2 the count. Adam fights it off, protecting that outside corner.
Well, that means, see, there's the easy swing. I can still hit home runs with 2 strikes, but I have to protect the plate. And then again, I don't know if there's a more frustrating loss, particularly after after game 146 as was the last night, when you go 3 for 15 and 0 for 6 with runners at third and less than 2 outs.
Shoot to first. Schaefer there, 2 quick outs. And Adam 1 out of 3. Well, the Orioles are playing for October, and we don't want you to miss a single moment. So follow Masson on Orioles on Twitter for the latest news, giveaways, and more. That's Masson Orioles on Twitter to show that you back the Birds. And some jackets here tonight. Unfortunately for me, mine's in Falston. Mr. Palmer has some connections, though.
Yes, I do.
And Kim goes against the shift for a 2-out single.
Actually, it's just so amazing when you talk about shifts. That ball is pretty much dead straight away shortstop, except Ramirez is. And a lot of shortstops will do this against left-handers. They get a couple of steps up the middle. Hits it hard. But the harder you hit it, you can see, pretty much it's only a couple steps away from him. But he hits it hard enough. Alexei Ramirez has no chance of catching. And it gets Manny to the plate. All right, a 2-out base hit, boy. You want to, if you're Chris Archer, you wanted to have a 1-2-3 inning, and now you got to face Mr. Machado.
And he's been hot, 6-game hitting streak. Good take there. That pitch down and away, 1-0. Archer against the Orioles in his career, he's 3-6. The only team he has more losses against is Boston. And against the Red Sox, it's amazing. He's 1-10 against Boston. 3-6 against the O's.
Well, usually to beat him, even though the numbers can get obviously inflated. I mean, Tanaka beat him in his last start in the Yankee Stadium because he pitched better, but not by much. I mean, a 0-0 game. He threw a couple of home runs in the 6th inning. Like we told you, that's where he throws most of his home runs. 6 of the 26th in that inning.
Fly ball to center field. Kiermaier in on it. And he's got it. So Archer gets out of it. 2-out single man left. We are through 5. 4-2 Tampa Bay. Tonight's Birdland Community Hero is Dr. Marvin L. Cheatham Sr. He is the founder of the Men's Blue Suit Health Awareness Weekend and the annual Men's Reading in Baltimore City Public Elementary Schools. He served as the Baltimore City president for Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the NAACP, the National Action Network, and the city's election board. And since 2005, he has assisted more than 7,000 children and their families in attending Orioles baseball games through the Orioles Reach Game Day Experience program. Dr. Cheatham inspires us through his dedication to serving the people of Baltimore City. And if you want to nominate a potential community hero for Birdland, Orioles.com/heroes. That ball knocked down by Ubaldo, and he's not going to get him. So Longoria reaches, and that snaps the string. He had retired 10 in a row.
Yeah, good pitch. Bad result because of the falling off. I mean, he just falls off towards the Oriole dugout. He has got to come back, and the minute he doesn't catch it. You know, the one thing about Evan Longoria, 30 years old, and he's going to be across the bag. He's quicker, you know, in a new diet, new workout program, and having, at least from a home run standpoint, his best year ever. Of course, the first thing he tells you, it doesn't really mean a whole lot unless you're going to the playoffs.
We're going to give Longoria a single. As Jim mentioned, Ubaldo was on one side of the mound, tried to make a nice play. If the ball sticks in his glove, he's out, but it didn't.
Well, he's very agile, and you know, I saw that on the pop-up. Fields his position. Middle league play, got a hit over in Washington.
So the first time he has pitched from the stretch since 2 out in the 2nd inning. After retiring 10 in a row.
And he doesn't want to get behind Brad Miller, who's been struggling, 7 for his last 53. The amazing thing, and you know, they get him from the Mariners, is that, what, 28 home runs this year. That is 1 less than he hit in his career. Talk about a monster year.
Longoria runs, swing and a miss. The throw from Wieters, he is out. Right into the tag goes the foot, and that erases the base runner.
I mean, that is about as good a throw as you can make. And again, it's usually a track meet against Ubaldo. So again, I mean, it's not a straight steal. It's almost like it's a hit and run. I don't know if it would have made a difference. The throw's that good. You can see the shift by Matt Wieters. And then right to the glove. And look at J.J. Hardy presents it, tries to get the hand and wrist out of it.
So Wieters has now caught 20 of 58. He's catching 34% of those potential base stealers. And he has maybe the two best taggers in the American League on the other end. And there goes Miller. Strikeout number 6 and 2 men down.
Yeah, again, the target's away, but the breaking ball's in. And again, high fastball hitter. Again, the spin or the off speedness of that breaking ball just fools him, not the location.
Corey Dickerson, who has struck out and popped up to Ubaldo. Yes, to Ubaldo. And foul ground. Manny was deep and Ubaldo got there first. As strong as Manny is, I wouldn't want to run into Ubaldo. Manny,
I don't think he had a choice. I mean, nobody was catching that ball except Ubaldo. I mean, he sprinted over to it. That's what you do for outs, Jim.
0-2 on Dickerson.
Well, he's trying to keep that 9-game hit streak alive. His average has gone up 20 points over what the last 35 at bats. 17 for 35. I mean, get an idea why this team, they're pitching a little bit better, hitting a little bit better. Defense still a problem. We saw that in the first when they made the 2 errors.
I'll be back in the crowd out of play. Red Sox have a 3-0 lead at home against the Yankees. The game's in the 4th with the Red Sox batting. Tigers are trailing at Cleveland 4-1. Here's the standings in the division with the Orioles loss and the Red Sox dramatic 5-run bottom of the 9th come from behind win. Boston with a 2-game lead on the Orioles and Blue Jays. Blue Jays won late last night in Anaheim, and the Yankees now 5 back. Just missed inside. The Tigers in Seattle are 2 games back in the wild card with the Orioles and Blue Jays tied for the 2 wild card positions. Seattle is just on fire. They've won 8 in a row, 9 of 10. They had last night off. And they have a very easy schedule the rest of the way. Tonight they host the banged up Astros.
Yeah. Well, they do get to play the Jays. What, the Jays next week?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right, yeah. And of course, out there.
And he got him. Ubaldo strikeout number 7. He has a 3-batter inning. The caught stealing helping out. We go to the bottom of the 6th. Birds down by 2. Inside the numbers, second half slump before the All-Star break and after the All-Star break, and a lot of dramatic drop-offs.
Yeah, there are. You know, and June was the best month. The Orioles winning months the first 3, losing months until this month. You know, July and August, but they were 19-9. They scored over 6 runs a game, almost gave up 5 runs a game, and then the offense just kind of tapered off.
There's Chris Davis.
Kind of hoping they're not tired because of all that offense.
Fastball too high.
So let's see. Slider, home run, left center. Slider double play the first time. And again, 3 quality pitches. Let's see how he chooses to pitch him here in the 6th.
'79 pitches now.
Changeup, been a good one. So 26 home runs by Chris Davis since 2012 against the Rays.
Oh, too far and a check swing.
Jim Wolf. Buck doesn't agree. Take a look. This is what he's looking at. Yeah, went far enough. So again, no slider to speed up the bat. Just pounded him in and got him to chase. Kind of.
And a strikeout number 200 on the year for Davis. Check swing, picked up it was going to be a ball and just couldn't stop the bat.
You know, Ubaldo has really straightened out his game, so let's get a guy on and put some pressure on Mr. Archer.
Oh, 2 on Scope, who has flied out and grounded out. Just a slight breeze here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that the ball is carrying if you get it up in the air. Already 4 home runs tonight. Yeah, the year of the home run. Home runs up, exit velocity up. Nobody really wants to talk about it. The fly ball goes farther this year. At least it appears that way.
Towards the middle, Ramirez will scoop it up. Low throw, but scooped out there by Schaefer. 2 down here in the 6th. For every Orioles walk, Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield contributes $50 to support the Be More for Healthy Babies. The Orioles have drawn 426 walks for a total of $21,300. Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield encourages each of us to take that first step towards a healthier and a more active lifestyle. Nice crowd on hand on this Friday night. Pennant race baseball, and the Orioles fell behind 4-0 by the 2nd. Now 4-2. Alvarez homered with 1 out in the 2nd.
Well, you've seen Chris Archer start pitching the way you're supposed to. You read the bat, and if you're throwing home runs on sliders and you throw 95 or 96, go to that. Again, a game of adjustment. Bright, articulate guy, and it looks like he's got a little bit better sense.
They shook him off 3 times. Got a lot of pitches.
3. Well, sometimes you do it.
No 3 times.
Yes, but you sometimes do it for effect.
Oh.
Second baseman should know that. Another good changeup. It's not only the 88, it's the movement, the depth, the way he's able to finish his pitches.
2 outs and nobody on here in the 6th. I'm not sure what happened there. Archer just stepped off and stared towards the dugout. Upstairs, ball 3. 6'3", 190. And
he looks slight, but he's kind of rangy, and he does have the arm. And there's no doubt about that.
And got him on a breaking ball in the dirt. So 3 up, 3 down inning. We head to the 7th, 4-2 Tampa Bay.
Highlights, early lead as Longoria now 7 RBIs in the last 2 games, couple of home runs, and then Richie Schaefer hits his first of the year, makes it 4-0, and then Ubaldo settles down, retires to 13 of the next 14. I mean, high fastballs, splitters, breaking balls, you name it. And meanwhile, the Orioles crawl back into the game, trailing 4-2. Those are your Geico game highlights. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote.
We go to the 7th. Here's Souza to lead off. Schaefer and Ramirez will follow. Ubaldo, the only blemish there was the infield hit off the glove of Ubaldo, but then Longoria was out trying to steal. Hardy knocks it down, picks it up, and not in time.
Yeah, a rarity. Ball hit hard, but certainly playable. And again, Souza kind of battling that, ran into the wall a number of weeks ago. So again, it just doesn't catch it. And then the speed. Steven Souza Jr. Yeah, I mean, you know, before this series, Jim, as we mentioned last night, we were talking about, okay, he may have to have, you know, be going down and having surgery and have it repaired, and next thing you know, he's in the lineup.
He came down on the base very hard.
Yeah, it already hurt the hip hitting the wall, so first base coach Rocco Baldelli. But once again, the error gets on.
Schaefer, a 2-run home run in the 2nd, and right now that's the difference in the game. Made it 4-0 at the time, now 4-2. 7 strikeouts for Ubaldo. It's back in the crowd.
Now you can see a big long swing, and they saw that last year. So he goes down to AAA Durham, where again he hits the 11 home runs. Last year 19 home runs at AAA. Went a little bit backward, but once again, big guy, minor league player of the year. And a lot of times for hitters, to be able to get on your fastball, it has to be about the count. And the pitch just misses under the knees.
Although trying to win his 8th.
Yeah, trying to throw that low and away fastball. And they give him the hole into right field on the ground.
And he got him.
Well, the young fastball hitter, big long swing, trying to get it into the fastball count, and that's not the case. Great splitter, dives under the strike zone. This is the way you pitch young hitters when you command your stuff and execute your pitches.
Here's Alexei Ramirez, who has flied out and grounded out.
Yeah, you're not going to do it now, but you would think. I mean, if you had a healthy Souza at first, you may think about maybe starting the runner. But then again, if you had a healthy Souza, you might already have stolen.
Catching a base stealer with Ubaldo on the mound is news. It's only the 4th potential base stealer the Orioles have been able to catch with Ubaldo on the mound. It was that good of a throw from Wieters. 24 stolen bases against Ubaldo, and now 4 caught stealing. Ubaldo's very happy Noah Syndergaard is in the majors because he's the only one that's allowed more than him. Ground ball towards the hole. He hit it against the shift.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about. He can start runners and whatever because Ramirez is a contact hitter. When he first came to the big leagues with the White Sox, I think he had 17 home runs, and since then he's just a slasher. And again, it's pretty much routine ground ball, except nobody's playing there.
The Wieters had to go out and change the signals with a runner at second base. Not a lot of these situations in this game. Tampa Bay 1 for 1 with a runner in scoring position, and that was Longoria's home run in the first after the double by Kiermaier. Orioles are 0 for 1. And that was the double play ground out by Davis in the first.
Well, between Texas and here, you can see, look at the numbers. Bobby Wilson.
Bounce to Manny. The scope. And back to first. There's a double play to end it. So an error base hit and 1 left. 7th inning stretch. 4-2 Tampa Bay. Our 7th inning stretch in a 4-2 game and a nice crowd on hand. And welcome back to the booth, Jim and Jim, on this Friday night. Now tomorrow night we have them, the Orioles Bobble Boy and Bobble Girl giveaways. I have the girl, I can tell by the ponytail.
You can bobble.
You have a bobblehead. Oh, so that's tomorrow night. A nice giveaway here at the ballpark. And Orioles are right in this game. And early on, it looked as if, one of those nights. But Ubaldo really has put it together.
Well, you don't want to give up runs, and when you do, and he's been pitching well, you try to put a stop to it, and he did. So again, Archer still pitching better. It looks like he's changed his way he's going up. He's given up 2 home runs. Ubaldo's given up 2 home runs, but the difference is a couple of guys on. So, the Orioles, you're right, they are into this game, and it's going to pretty much be what it was last night. Which can you get to the back of their bullpen? They couldn't do it last night.
Well, what Archer's been able to do here is minimize the base runners per inning. So as you say, yeah, 2 home runs are great solos, but they haven't been able to get those high anxiety innings against them by getting men on base.
High anxiety. I love it when you talk about Broadway. Anyway, well, yeah, we need some high anxiety.
I'm personal.
Innings. But again, we talked about as the game progresses, that's when he gives up more home runs. Giving up 15 on the road, 11 at home. Doesn't pitch quite as well. ERA close to 6 runs. They need him to make a couple of mistakes. Either that or Kevin Cash will be going to the bullpen. Pitch count probably closing in on 100.
Mikey Matuk goes into left field. He replaces Brad Miller. And Miller moves into first base, replacing Schaefer. So here we go with Wieters leading off. Strike 1. Bouncer to first. Easy play for Miller. And 1 down here in the Orioles' 7th inning. Well, next Saturday, September 24th, as part of Fan Appreciation Weekend, when the Orioles take on the Diamondbacks at 7:05, first 25,000 fans 15 and over will receive an Orioles hooded sweatshirt. You can prepare for the chill of the fall while the postseason race continues to heat up at Oriole Park. And that is the final Saturday game of the regular season. So don't miss out. Get your tickets, Orioles.com or 888-848-BIRD. There's Hardy, who's 1 out of 2. And the Orioles in this game have had 2 men on base in the same inning. As we look at Danny Farquhar getting loose, only once, and that was in the 1st inning. And there's Brad Brock. Kim reached on the air, and then Manny hit the squibber out in front of the plate. And the throw to second by Wilson pulled Forsythe off, so both Kim and Machado reached, but then Davis bounced into a double play, and that was it. Every other inning when they've had a base runner, they've had just 1. Slowly it past the mound. Ramirez throws off balance poorly, and J.J. Hardy reaches.
Yeah, really going so hard and so far to his left, which is up the middle. I mean, ball right off the end of the bat. I mean, look, here he comes. It's probably, I might say it would be an easier play for Forsythe, but he probably had a better angle. Because anytime you're going that hard left and have to throw back. So the Orioles, talking about base runners, they get one. It's really not a typical Archer game. I mean, he never really walks a lot of guys, but he's had, 6 games where he's had 10 or more strikeouts this year. One of them against the Orioles tonight. Almost pitching to contact, other than the 2 home runs, which he didn't like.
Michael Bourne takes outside. Now Bourne trying to get on to get the top of the lineup up there with men on base. We'll see how they defensive. Kiermaier, how about that? He's in left center field, shading that way. He's been over the other way the entire game.
Well, they just don't expect Bourne to pull the ball unless he makes a mistake. And if he does down and in, he hits it up the gap, he will not catch it. Ball will hook away from him. A lot of times if you kind of play the angles, or the, if you got a left-hander hitter up and he hits it to left center off a right-handed pitcher, the ball's going to go away from the center. So he plays over there, and then with his speed, we saw that last night. It was never more evident than what Kevin Kiermaier can do when he ran down the Machado rocket into the gap. He can cover about as much ground as anybody or more.
Good take, 2-1.
I taught Michael Bourne today. I mean, I'm looking down there yesterday and I think Al Bumbry. He's got #1 on. You know, I mean, both of them, the B wore the same number. Michael has never met Al. I said, well, he was Rookie of the Year. He did hit .337.
And a base hit into right field. Pulls it through the hole. So here come the O's, 2 on and 1 out.
Yeah, every time you think that Archer kind of maybe settled down, he kind of gives you a pitch to give you a chance, and there's another slider. So it speeds up the bat. And again, it's not a horrible pitch, but it just gets the bat head where he can pull the ball. And nobody's playing there. And the Orioles get what they need.
Archer leaves. Orioles have the tying runs on. Go ahead run at the plate, 1 down in the 7th.
.818, which leads the major leagues in losses. Pitches very well. Only the 2 solo home runs. A lot of strikes, only with a 1 walk. So Farquhar will come on in relief of him. Well, I guess you go to the hot hand, Jim. You know, 10 consecutive scoreless innings. We saw him last night. You know, dropped off some splitters, 92 to 94. Actually, a couple more curveballs than I've seen him throw in the last couple of weeks. So the numbers. Again, he's been up and down a number of times, have gotten a lot better as he gets to pitch on a more frequent basis.
Well, he came in the game last night after Dana Evelyn allowed a walk and a double to Matt Wieters. So it was 2nd and 3rd and nobody out. He allowed both inherited runners to score, but he got 3 ground ball outs and ended the inning. 2 scored on the first 2 ground outs by Hardy and Michael Bourne. So here's Adam Jones. 1 out of 3. Tying runners at first with excellent speed and Michael Bourne. Hardy the lead runner at 2nd. And he hit him. And the bases are loaded.
Yeah, last night he went early on to the breaking ball. You kind of wondered if maybe Adams going to sit on it. And here he throws him a splitter and drills him. So that'll load him up. And again, split-fingered fastball runs in and left thigh. Really had no chance to get out of the way. Wilson gets hit on the rebound.
Fans are booing Farquhar, hitting their hero Adam Jones, but that puts the tying run in scoring position. And the go-ahead run on at first.
So Kim, for the first time all year with the bases loaded. Amazing.
Center field, very deep. Kiermaier back. That ball is caught. Oh, he dropped it. He dropped it. That ball's in play. And a run scores. It's a one-run game. Oh, my goodness. Kiermaier almost stole the ball, and then it popped out of his glove.
Well, we've been talking about it for 2 nights. I mean, last year won the Platinum Glove for center fielders, and you're getting an idea here. So this is an NBA. I mean, look how high he goes. He prematurely leaps and then hits the wall. So in the glove, out of the glove on impact, and on the ground. So again, gets a fastball and drills. I mean, he hits this ball hard. You think it's going out of here, and it probably wouldn't have. Second straight night. There have been 2 balls that usually he catches. He didn't, and then of course he also made some spectacular catches last night. So again, yeah, you're going kind of halfway because you don't know. Adam Jones thinks it's out of here. He's got to go back and touch second base. So again,
for Kim, that's his first RBI since August 27th. And it's a huge RBI. It gets the tying run to third and the go-ahead run to second for Manny. Outside, ball 1.
So know what you want to hit. Pressure's on Farquhar. Scott Coolbaugh, hitting instructor, saying, just, I mean, it's got to be a focus from the first pitch. Farquhar's in trouble.
In the dirt, ball 2. Fans are on their feet. Bourne, Jones, Kim, Farquhar facing Manny. And the fans loving this pennant race baseball. 2-0 on Machado. That's a 5-2-1.
Yeah, that's pretty gutty pitch right there. 92, got to throw a strike. He does. And Manny doesn't swing through that pitch very often, especially when he's looking for it.
Right on that one, fouls it back.
So the ability to somehow get back in the count with his fastball sets up his other pitches.
Manning does have 3 sac flies on the year. That would be good enough to get the game tied. Orioles thinking more than that. Just got a piece.
There's a good splitter. Yeah, the splitters is strikeout. As you look at Ben Evelyn, who we saw last night, and Garton just called back up to the big leagues. You get hurt doing that out there.
Left field, down the line towards the corner. That is foul and fading back. Here's the 7th pitch to Manning. Now it's foul.
Right in their dugout. Well, he's looking to strike him out or get a ground ball, and Manny's trying to get a ball that he can hit in the air. And if you're with us last night, it was a frustrating night. Runner in scoring position numbers 3 for 15, and it's not like he's going to serve it up there for him. He might have to earn it.
Time was requested at the plate, granted by Adrian Johnson. Good way to use your socks. And he got him. Oh, huge out.
Well, fabulous pitch. You know, 10 scoreless appearances. Those are his runs. And this is one of them. I mean, this is what he did down in Tampa. You know, again, I mean, he just kind of turns it over to the kind of splitter, change up, high ball hitter, low pitch. Gets a huge strikeout. I mean, huge.
So now it'll take a hit or a mistake to get a run in. Chris Davis' career 7 grand slams, 298 average. And the shift is on against him. Davis just 1 for 5 against Farquhar. In the dirt. Came back with the same pitch, and that time Davis laid off.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about with Bobby Wilson, who's a terrific receiver behind the plate, about throwing one by him. And again, if you're going to throw the splitter, you don't want to leave it up and out over the plate.
Good take.
So just remember, 26 home runs since 2012. Chris Davis against the Rays. And they have been a total different variety of pitches. Yeah, you make a pitch 3 inches off the outside corner, you think it's a good pitch, and then all of a sudden some fans grabbing it in the left field seats. And then there's your pitch to hit. A little bit late on it.
10 to left, 16 to center, 12 to right for his 38 home runs. Just did get a piece.
You know, those are certainly important at bats in the sense that when he makes that kind of quality pitch and you're able to foul it off, whatever it is, it just enhances the chance. Doesn't guarantee, it enhances the chance maybe you'll get a better pitch to hit. There's another one.
Another 7-pitch at bat. Pedro watching the follow through of Farquhar. Chris Archer wondering, will he be able to still get a win, or will the Orioles tie or get the lead here?
Well, this pitch right here and the next one will have a lot to do with it.
Pop foul out of play. Again, a little late on that fastball.
Well, you're protecting against 87, but you know, usually, I mean, you try to hit off the fastball and hope that he'll make a mistake with something of a lesser speed, and he just hasn't done that. Got a ball in the middle of the plate to Kim. Kiermaier kept it in the ballpark. And again, the roller coaster ride of a starter.
And he got him. A changeup. So bases loaded, 1 out, back-to-back strikeouts end the inning. So the Orioles get 1, but they strand 3. We head to the 8th in a 1-run game.
Struggles early, couple 2-run home runs, and then boy, shifts gears. Ends up with 8 strikeouts, a myriad of different pitches, all well thrown, and allows the Orioles to get back into the game. Schaefer, who hit one of the home runs down. Dickerson has been red hot. Again, really just kind of turn the tables. There are the numbers. Doesn't walk anybody. Again, the couple of 2-run home runs at first and second inning hurt him. Brad Brach in for second straight night. And then again, fastball was about 95 last night. Slider, probably the third pitch. Changeup about as good as anybody's, with a chance to keep the game right where it is. Orioles trailing by 1. I don't think you want to be a right-handed batter. 0.99.
So in back-to-back games, the Orioles have rallies stopped by back-to-back strikeouts. Last night it was in the 9th when they were trying to tie it. Trumbo and Davis struck out back-to-back. And tonight, with the bases loaded and 1 down, Machado and Davis go down back-to-back. So the Orioles do get within 1, but they miss a big chance to tie or get the lead.
Well, it's a game of execution, and Farquhar comes in and for the second straight night it was magnificent. One mistake, Kiermaier kept it in the park. The Orioles only get 1. Ball goes off his glove. The line drive that Kim hit looked like it was going to be a grand slam home run.
And he really got a lot of it, Kim. Jumping on the first pitch. First RBI since August 27th.
Now a couple of righties, so you assume he'll probably play the next 2 nights, night and day. An afternoon game on Sunday. The next home run for Logan Forsythe, he will be the 10th home run, 10th second baseman to hit 20 or more home runs this year.
Weak ground ball to Hardy. 1 down in the 8th. Fans, the regular season at Oriole Park will come to a close next Sunday. That is September 25th, when the Orioles host the Diamondbacks at 1:35. And that day, all fans will receive a Maryland flag Orioles cap presented by DAP. So show your Free State pride and celebrate your birds during the final home game of the regular season. And after the game, because it's Sunday, all kids 14 and under can run the bases here at Oriole Park. For your tickets, Orioles.com or 888-848-BIRD. Bounce right to Davis, who scoops it. And 2 down.
Yeah, there's the changeup, 1 pitch, and it's a good one. Bottom drops out right on the ground, and then it's snatched by Chris Davis. Not an easy play. I mean, it just barely misses the difference between the grass and the dirt. Seven RBIs in the first 2 games so far for Mr. Longoria. It's a nice little start to a series.
Boxberger getting loose. It looks like he'll come on and work the 8th to face Scope, Alvarez, and Wieters.
Yeah, good changeup, and
They're 0-2 with 2 outs and nobody on. Line to left. That's going to fall for a base hit. 0-2 pitch. He rips it in the left field for a single.
Yeah, it just doesn't make a good one, and Longoria waiting.
Let's get a look at our league leaders, brought to you by Coons.com. Over 2 million vehicles sold and counting. Well, most wins for relief corps. The Orioles 3rd most in the American League, tied with the Tigers at 28. Rangers have 36. Even though their bullpen ERA is very low, they have 36 wins out of the pen. They have that comeback ability with their hitters. Michael Gibbons has 8 of those wins. Brad Brach has 8 of those wins. Miller slices it foul. Miller is 0 for 3 and now just 4 for his last 31. Bounce to Hardy. He'll play it to first. Scope was deep in the hole. And that does it in the 8th. 1 out single, 1 left. Bottom of the 8th coming up in a 1-run game. Orioles baseball on Masson is brought to you by PNC Bank, for the achiever in you, and by Bank of America. Life's better when we're connected. Orioles would love to add one of those this year.
Yeah, get another one of those banners up on the wall. Is Brad Boxberg again, the second straight night for him. So you can see really good fastball, change up. Threw some breaking balls last night, a little bit more than he normally does. Last year, 41 saves, first All-Star team. Year before, 104 strikeouts in 64 innings with 34 hits. And I'll tell you what, and you just saw it from Farquhar. He came in now 40 strikeouts in 31 innings. So he's a strikeout guy. Boxberger, because of the abdominal injuries and some core injuries early on, hasn't pitched as many innings. Even last year when he was a closer, 74 strikeouts with 63 innings. So they have a lot of strikeout guys the back end of their bullpen. And as you mentioned, Jim, when you think you have a rally going, strikeouts can thwart that. Put a halt.
And they certainly have in this series. So here's Scope. He does have a home run against Boxberger.
Yeah, it just didn't look like, and again, you know, injuries early on in spring training, so really late start for Brad Boxberger, that the stuff wasn't quite as electric as we've seen in other years. We'll see if that's the case tonight.
Pops up the changeup.
I still remember before last year, when he was a setup guy in Tampa, he came in at the bases loaded and then struck out the side. So he has those kind of capabilities. Now, whether again after an injury early on, and it takes sometimes to heal the core injuries, and if he's quite that sharp, we'll see.
Scope, left field. Will it stay fair? Down the line in the corner. That is a foul ball. Oh, so close.
Yeah, the hanging changeup, and his changeup usually is about as good as anybody's around when he's healthy. And just a high drive, it just curls foul. And you can say, you kind of look at the fans and you see, okay, what side of the foul pole, fair pole are they sitting, standing?
Well, the Rays had a 13-man bullpen listed for the series, as Givens and Zack Britton getting loose. And last night, Boxberger, who was one of their setup men, came on to get out of a jam in the 5th inning. That was interesting and very efficient use by Kevin Cash of his bullpen.
Well, again, what are you doing? And when he got in trouble, it was the rookie Blake Snell. You want to win, you got a 7-4 lead, you bring in a strikeout guy, and he was able to do that. And
he walked in the lead off the 8th.
Yeah, once you hang a changeup and a guy almost homers, it kind of changes your pitch selection a little bit. At least initially, the Orioles get what they want here in the 8th. And again, they have lefties in their bullpen. They're just, Cedeno's been hurt with a neck problem. Dana Evelyn, we saw him last night. He's been up and down many times. Justin Marks, starter, brought to the big leagues. And then N.A. Romero, that has been inconsistent, hard thrower, but inconsistent pretty much most of the year. And there's a changeup, and Pedro almost looked like he knew it was coming.
Kim got the O's within a run. Pedro the go-ahead run at the plate. There's Pedro's shot to second, and no doubt about it, into the bleachers.
Yeah, late on the fastball, right on the slider, scorches it. Orioles get on the board, makes it 4-1. Chris Archer doing a little bit of self-talking. Yeah, I've been there. It's easy to talk to yourself. Bobby Wilson going to come out, and
I would think you might get better answers that way.
That's right.
I mean, who's going to disagree with himself?
Well, that's a good point. Just kind of looking at Jim Hickey.
I was just amused. I got you to ponder that.
Well, I was also looking at the monitor. I'm saying, when Jim Hickey, we saw him last night. He was doing some warm-ups for the Olympic sprint. He was out to the mound so many times. They're the Rays pitching coach.
Ball 3.
Boy, amazing game. I mean, you get an early lead if you're the Rays. You're Kevin Cash. You mentioned former catcher. You trust your guys. Boxberger again because of the injuries, and then it comes down to maybe a pitch or two or a hit or two over the 9 innings. And there's another one.
Back-to-back walks puts the tying run to second, the go-ahead run at first, and nobody out. So now, can the Orioles break out of the funk with runners in scoring position?
Well, the other thing is, and Kevin Cash once again, as Jim Hickey will again, come out to have a talk. I can't imagine. I don't know. Yeah, Raimo's going to pinch run, but you can't expect a sacrifice here. Not in 2016. Not with Matt Wieters.
Garton gets back up in the pen. Conversation on the mound. You got to believe with all these opportunities the last 2 nights, the Orioles are going to break through on one of those.
Well, you'd like to think. I mean, the odds are in your favor, but it's not the way it works, unfortunately. You got to get it done. I mean, somehow, we've seen Matt Wieters. He's going to sit on a pitch. That's what he does. He's going to try to hit it hard somewhere. Boxberger is going to try to get to 2 strikes and maybe get a strikeout if he can. And there's another changeup. So
outfield deep, as they played last night late in the game.
You'd love to be able to advance some runners here. And there's finally a fastball, 91, perfectly thrown low and away. Yeah, we always talk, Mike Bordick, of course, does the games that I don't, talks about secondary leads. This is where, if you're Nolan Reimold, you want to be able to break it up a double play. And there's the changeup, and it's a good one. And this kind of floats away.
And it hit him. Wow. 1-2 pitch.
Well, it painfully loads the bases up. Boxberger away, then tries to come in, cuts it. That does a nice job with the protection, taking it. That'll load him up. So you're talking about odds? Might enhance it a little bit.
And one of the hotter hitters on the team. 2 hits tonight. Hardy is 6 for his last 11 with 6 RBIs in that span, and he's got RBI opportunity
the
here.
last 2 nights, Jim, we've been talking about how deep they play. They're about as shallow as they can possibly play, especially Souza in right field. Souza's out there again anticipating because of the scoreboard.
Well, they were deep for Wieters, but not so now. They want to cut off a single if they can. Bounce towards the hole. Ramirez, no play, and the tying run scores. Ramirez got to it, but he couldn't get a grip. Perfectly placed by Hardy, and we're tied.
Yeah, really not a bad pitch, but a bad result for Brad Boxberger. And they come in a couple of steps for the double play. And then again, he hits it in the hole, top spins it. So you're just trying to catch it. And when he does, unable to do anything with it. It'll tie the game up.
For the moment, he saved the go-ahead run from coming in, did Ramirez. And here's Michael Bourne with the infield drawn in. Fly ball, shallow left. Very shallow is Matuk. Reimold's going to tag.
And he doesn't throw well.
Here comes Reimold. Here comes the throw up the line, and the Orioles have the lead.
Yeah, Matuk, if you do your advance reports, and you know that Buck Showalter, Bobby Dickerson, third base coach, you know he doesn't have a particularly good arm. So finally, after frustration last night, couldn't get it done. Bourne gets the ball to put in the air, and he doesn't catch it particularly well. Catches it off to the left, doesn't circles it. Had plenty of time to do that, and then Reimold will give him the go-ahead run. And you hope it doesn't end with only the 1 run here.
Well, Longoria, by cutting it off, was able to keep Wieters from going to third. If that ball gets by him, Wieters probably would be able to take off. So we're back even. How about manufacturing runs this inning? Excuse me, the Orioles have the lead at 5-4 off the sac fly. Walk, hit by pitch, infield hit and a sac fly. Pulled foul. So now the Orioles look for an add-on run to make it easier for Zack in the 9th.
Or 2.
And there is.
Yeah, he'd already been up with Gibbons, so it's just a matter of getting the lead, which they've done, and then you just hope that he's done what he's done all year long.
One and one.
Yeah, you're just kind of seeing baseball being played out. You know, Farquhar, you think you're going to maybe have a chance. Take the lead in the 7th. He comes in, gets a couple of strikeouts, bring in Boxberger. Pitched well last night, not so much tonight.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Orioles. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Orioles. One and 2 on Jones. Off the mask, Bobby Wilson. Adam talking to him. Make sure he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, straight back and right off the top of the mask. Adrian Johnson, home plate umpire, gives him some time.
Wieters and Hardy, 2nd and 1st. Lays off the changeup, 2-2.
Yeah, I think again, you know, the early season injury to Brad Boxberger, normally a little bit more velocity and obviously a lot better command. And then that brings the changeup into play on any count.
Good protective swing there.
Well, it's kind of interesting when you talk to, if you go back and look at last night's game, Scott Kulbov talking about the Orioles and actually really talking about what the Rays were able to do last night. 6 for 14 when runners are scoring position. He said they put the ball in play with two strikes, and that's what Adams trying to do here. And there's another one, a zoom ball, and he just kind of pulls it. It cuts. He's obviously struggling out there. Bobby Wilson's going to have another conversation, and targets inside, balls away, and Adams just again hoping to get a better pitch to hit.
Well, when he's already seen 7 pitches and Jones is still up there, I'm going to wonder, well, what can I throw?
Well, change up out of the strike zone is probably what he has in mind, and I hope he goes to a breaking ball.
Heck of an at bat for Adam here. 3-2 on 8 pitches. Kim is on deck. 1 down in the inning. Popped up. Here's Bobby Wilson. Called off by the first baseman, Brad Miller, who makes the out. So a big out for Boxberger and 2 down. And here comes Kevin Cash. We're going to get a pitching change. Cash doesn't like the matchup of Boxberger against Kim, so we're going to get Garton coming on. So when Boxberger leaves, Ryan Garton comes on. O's have 2 in. They have the lead in the 8th. Earlier in the game, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Well, here's J.J. Hardy earlier this inning, bases loaded, nobody out, puts the ball in play deep in the hole to short. Alexei Ramirez gets to it, but he has no play. Scope scores the tying run as Hardy got it done. That's the only hit this inning. And then the next batter, Michael Bourne, the sac fly to get the Orioles the lead here in the 8th, and still not done with 2 on and 2 down.
Yeah, so Ryan Garden, 4th time up and down this year. Born in Clearwater, Florida. You know, fastball, curveball, cutter type of pitcher. Tops out here, 92, 93. So again, as we mentioned, up and down. Pretty good the other night as he pitched up in Toronto. And again, did run into trouble. I think the 3rd or 2nd or 3rd time, 6 appearances, 4 home runs. So not hard thrower. And as you mentioned, Jim, the Orioles still looking to try to add a run or 2.
Kim had the big RBI hit off the glove of Kiermaier in deep center field his last at bat. That made it 4-3.
It's kind of funny, if he hit the same ball now, Kiermaier's not going to catch it. But because of the score at the time, which was 4-2, he was playing a lot deeper. Not that he can't get to the wall in a hurry, because he can, but
foul back the other way, a ball and a strike. Kim has never faced Garton.
Well, again, I mean, not a high round draft choice. 34th round reliever all through his career in the minor leagues, and usually right around a strikeout per inning, or maybe a touch lower. And a good pitch inside corner.
Well, we hope you can join us tomorrow. Game 3 of the series. Chris Tillman against Matt Andrews. Coverage on MASN begins 6:30. O's Extra presented by Southwest. Game coverage at 7 o'clock. Fans on their feet at Camden Yards. 3 late runs, and the O's have the lead. Him with a good take. So you look at the job done by Ubaldo in this game. After falling behind 4-0 by the second, he was outstanding and got through 7 innings. Did not allow the Rays another add-on run, and now the O's have the lead. Pulled down the line, but foul.
A rocket.
That'll make Garton think. Reimold scored the go-ahead run. He pinch ran. So 2-2 on Kim with Wieters and Hardy on. First and second, 2 down. That is a foul ball. Wayne Kirby with those good hands. Now, of course, Adams going to critique it. Adams always at the end of the bench. Scopey joining in as well. Adam, a former shortstop, and Jonathan, maybe the best defensive second baseman in the game. And 2-2 on Kim with 2 down. Strike 3 call. He snuck a fastball by him. But a big inning for the O's. They get 2 runs on 1 hit. We head to the 9th. 3 Britton outs away from a win. Brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, and nothing to hide. The jerseys at the Orioles store. Number 53 is somewhere in that store, and he's also on the mound.
Yeah, he is, and you know, looking for another save. So 92% fastballs, best sinker in the game. And again, 43 out of 43, minuscule ERA, low batting averages. Hits the ball in the ballpark. And to give you an idea of what 81% ground ball percentage is, 112 balls on the ground, 10 in the air for the season.
Michael Bourne moves from right field to left field, and Drew Stubbs is now in the game in right field. Kim is out of the game. Corey Dickerson Souza on deck, and then Schaefer against Zack. A little low.
Yeah, so Dickerson a better average hitter, lefty versus lefty, but home runs 18 against righties, 2 home runs against left-handers. Again, free swinger.
Right to Davis. Big hop. Ooh, tough hop. And he takes it himself. 1 down. That one nearly skipped on him. Nicely done. And 1 away. We invite you to visit MASNsports.com/CareFirst and vote for tonight's CareFirst Fearless Player of the Game. Live fearless with a name trusted for over 75 years. CareFirst Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yeah, the ability for Zack Britton, and the more you watch him, you realize if the ball starts in the zone, I mean, you know, he does not want to start from ball to strike. If it starts pretty much anywhere, even thigh high, it's going to dip out of the zone. That's the kind of sinker he's had here in 2016 and pretty much the last couple of years.
Steven Souza.
I mean, that ball, you think it's going to be in the middle of the plate, and when you go to swing at it, it just dives down and away. And you could see him, and you know, he's trying to contemplate, okay, what's my approach going to be?
Well, Zach's current streak is 7 consecutive scoreless appearances since he allowed a run in Washington on August 24th. And that run was the first earned run he had allowed since late April. So he is on some kind of a historic run here this season. And he certainly will be in the Cy Young Award discussion. The last reliever to win the Cy Young was Eric Gagne back with the Dodgers in 2003 when he had a dominant season closing for Los Angeles. One and 2 on Souza.
Yeah, they got to probably feel pretty comfortable. I mean, on this road trip, which is what, 11-game trip. I mean, he's already hit 4 home runs. So if young hitter, strong hitter, power, right center, left center. And as we mentioned, only 1 home run all year against Zack Britton. Sinker's been that good.
Able to fight it off. Souza is 0 for 4 against Zack.
Yeah, there's a ball that's a little bit more hittable. You don't see that very often. And it's up about waist high. That's just not where he lives. And that's why he'll take a little more time here.
Ball 3, so he runs the count full. Matuk is on deck. He came on defensively. Schaefer is out of the game. It's his spot coming up next. So this will be the 8th pitch and a very stubborn at bat for Souza. Bounce to third, foul.
Well, this is what they when they traded for Steven Souza Jr. What, he hit 350 at AAA Harrisburg for in Nationals. He stole bases. He hit home runs. You get a young player. You know, Tampa always looking for bargains, but also gifted players. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, but they got to like the quality, as you mentioned, Jim, of this or that. He's really hung in there. And of course, if you're Zack, this is getting annoying. He wanted a 2-hopper to Hardy.
So he's going to see 10 pitches in this at bat. He's already fouled off 6 of the 9 pitches.
And they've been good ones. I mean, maybe one up, the rest of them down where Zack wants to pitch. Once again. Yeah, you talked last night. I don't know about Jeff Decker. It might have a little bit of speed, but they don't really have much speed. And we saw Souza been bothered by that hip problem. So if he would get on, you think, I don't know who Kevin Cash is going to run with. Tim Beckham, he was sent to the minors for attitude problems, not recalled.
And maybe Nick Franklin.
Yeah, but he hurt the hamstring last night. Yeah,
good
so
point. Left field. Bourne is back on it, has a play, and on the warning track makes the catch.
Well, all you got to do is look at Zack Britton going, and he's going, there you go, and he goes, that's my fault. But Souza earned that. You know, you're making quality pitch after quality pitch. He's flicking them, fouling them away. You don't want to walk him, don't want to put the go-ahead run at the plate, and then he just misses a home run. There you go. Camden Yards. So what? Again, as we mentioned, only the 11th ball put in play in the air all year long against Zack Britton. It's kind of a bat Souza had.
11 pitches to get him out. So here's Mikey Matuk, first at bat tonight. He was 1 for 4 last night. Past the mound towards the middle and hits the base. And it's in the shallow center field. Matuk thought about going to second base, but he puts on the brakes. Scope may have had a play, but it hit the base and bounced in the shallow center field.
Yeah, I think Matuk probably runs too much, especially with the ball away. And then obviously when it hits the base there, then you're concerned, hey, is it going to go for 2? And he came around first, hustling. A little conversation. You certainly know Alexei Ramirez, high ball hitter, low ball pitcher, try to make your pitches. But then again, the guy that sprays it all over the place. And you can see pretty good numbers, 4 for 12 lifetime.
Yeah, he as a veteran has expansive experience against Zack. It's low 1-0. Red Sox are leading the Yankees 6-2 in the 7th. The Blue Jays play again in Anaheim. It is Dickey against Weaver. 10:05 first pitch. It's amazing how much weak contact he gets with that pitch. All former pitchers that you hear, national analysts now, whether it be on the MLB Network or MLB Network Radio, they call it a bowling ball sinker. Oh, he's Brad Lidge, who Zack just passed the other day. Third most to begin a season with saves. This is foul.
Yeah, the amazing thing, and you look this year, Dylan Bundy, he has to make the ball club because he's out of options. Zack Britton, you go back to 2014, had to stay on the club. Tommy Hunter started as a closer. He actually closed games. He just didn't do it in a very dramatic fashion. They go to Zack, 37 last year, 36, and this year as good as it gets. And people forget that before the arm injuries back in 2011, led the Orioles with 11 wins as a starting pitcher.
Breaking ball, first one of the inning.
Well, again, I mean, this is a kind of a group effort. Wieters puts the sign down. You trust him. He threw it exactly where you want to, and all you had to do is look at Xander Bogaerts when he struck him out on the slider the other night. He waved at him when it went by him. You knew exactly where he wanted to throw it, and that's not in the strike zone.
Runner at first, tying run, 2 down.
Yeah, really nice play by Matt Wieters. Easily could have been to the backstop off his shoulder, shin guard. Now the Rays get an advantage if there is such a thing against Zack Britton. 3-2, 2 out. Matuk with pretty good speed. He's going to be running.
Fans are anxious.
You just kind of maybe you throw over there.
Line drive, base hit into left field. Bourne has to hurry to get to this one. They're going to send him. Here comes the throw. Cut off, throw to the plate. He's out! Out at the plate! And the Orioles hang on and win it. Wow! Bourne to Manny to Wieters. And the game ends at the plate.
I'll take a look right here. Again, Ramirez now, 5 for 13. Circle the ball, hit the cutoff man, which he does. And then the perfect throw and tag. No chance to get to the plate. This is the way they drew it up in Sarasota back in February and March.
So the Orioles hang on and win it. We're coming back to Camden Yards after this.